Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm here to review this novel, Don't Come Looking for Love by Nativia. The book is a hood romance. This book, it had a lot of stuff going on. Oshe is one of the main characters. Oshe is a 15-year-old who lives with his parents on the nice side of town, right? Like his father is a dealer and his mom is a doctor, right? So they can afford to be on the nice side of town. Now the thing is, his father and his mother are having marital issues. Like the father is always cheating on the mom. And then because the mom is so hot, she decides to bury herself in work. So like they both don't have time for share, right? During his father's cheating days, right, his father has an affair with this woman called Tammy. And Tammy has her own son, who is Kenji. So Oshe and Kenji actually found out that their parents were cheating, right? But instead of being pissed at each other, they just sort of became friends and they became so close that they were now like they were even referring to themselves as brothers, right? So Oshe's father is Yaga. So Yaga ends the relationship he has with Tammy, but the brotherhood between Oshe and Kenji still continue, right? So because Kenji is Oshe's brother and Kenji lives in the hood part of town, right? So Oshe always comes to the hood part of town to spend time with Kenji. It's being that he has no one to talk to. He's the only child, right? He has no one to talk to, associate with in his own part of town. So he's always coming to the hood to meet Kenji, right? So there's this day that he comes to meet Kenji, and then they decide to play. They and the other children in the hood, right? They decide to play spin the bottle. That's a senseless, baseless game, right? It's Oshia's turn. He spins the bottle, and the bottle stops at this girl, Brittany. Brittany is 13 years old. Osha is 15, right? They go to a private area, smoosh whatever the way the game goes, and ever since then, Oshe became hooked to Brittany, right? So he always come to the hood for Kenji and Brittany. Now, what happened is that same night, right? Kenji also spawned bottle and he stopped on this girl, Jine. Now, Jine is Brittany's best friend, right? So it's almost like best friend to best friend kind of pairing. Anyway, Oshe and Brittany, they have their relationship, they smash, and after just that one time, Brittany becomes pregnant, right? So out of confusion, because she didn't know what to do, being pregnant at 13, she was really confused. She didn't know what to do. She told her mom. Now her mom happened to be a crackhead, always high. And the mom, out of anger that her daughter had made that mistake, and out of confusion, right, decides to tell Yaga that his son, Ushe, had gotten her daughter Brittany pregnant. Now, Yaga warns them to stay away from his son. He doesn't want his son to have anything to do with any hood, anybody, right? They decide to they both go back home. They decide to come up with how they can deal with the pregnancy on their own, knowing that they are not going to get the support of Yaga, and knowing that Ushe is a young boy who can't do anything about it. So when they go home and they are coming up with the next plan of action, these women just burst into their home and they beat the hell out of Brittany. They beat Brittany so bad, like it was so obvious from the way they were beating her that they wanted to like destroy the pregnancy, right? They hurt her so much. Her mother was able to defend her and get her away from these women. Her Brittany was bleeding seriously. She had complications. She was rushed to the hospital, right? So when she got to the hospital, they had to remove the baby just to save the baby's life. So the baby was born premature, right? After the baby was born premature, Brittany had named her baby. The baby turned out to be a girl. So Brittany had named the girl Shia. The doctor who had delivered Shia was quite, how will I say it, empathetic about the situation, right? So Brittany's mom explains the whole thing to the doctor, and then the doctor says what they can do. The best option at that point is for someone to adopt that daughter, knowing fully well that if they go back home with the child, Yaga is going to unalive the child and unalive them as well. So the doctor advises them to give up the child for adoption. And then that's what they do. They give up the child for adoption. They get back home. The whole situation, that kind experiencing such a thing can be traumatic. So the trauma, it was just they couldn't deal with it, both mother and daughter. And so what the mother did was to call Brittany's grandmother, and Brittany's grandmother comes to take her away from that place. So she goes to stay with her grandma while her mother goes to rehab to clean up herself. One day, Oshe just comes back to the hood and just realizes that Brittany is not there, and he's so confused about why she just disappeared on him. Now, all these things that happened with Brittany and the pregnancy and everything, Kenji knew about it. But Brittany's mother had begged Kenji not to tell Oshe, just so that they are not unalive. So Kenji promises to keep that secret, right? So even when Oshe was disappointed that Brittany had just left without telling him anything, Kenji didn't say anything as well. That's about that story. And we continue with Kenji and Ginny. They were trying to build a relationship, but somehow Janae just started to distance herself from her close friends, even from Britain. That's before Britain left. She distanced herself from Britain, distanced herself from Kenji. Because what had happened was that her mother gave the keys of their house to this particular man, and the man comes to that house when Janae is there and he grapes her. And that experience makes Janae to never forgive her mom, and the experience makes her to distance herself from the people that she knew. That's that about that. Then we move to 8 years later. So 8 years later, O'Shea is now a rapper, well acclaimed rapper, popular, moving with the big rap guys in the industry and whatnot. And then he's dating this lady Jordan, but not dating. He's just dating for the public, like dating Jordan to clean up his image, right? So it's not like it's not a real thing between them. Now Kenji, on the other hand, Kenji has now replaced Yaga as the D dealer and D lord of the hood. Kenji and O'Shea are still brothers, still friends. Britain had gone to school, fashion school. She'd completed her schooling and she'd gone back to the hood to start her career. Britain's mom was already clean and had gotten her act together, right? Now, Janae, funny enough, Janae had somehow continued the relationship with the person who had raped her. Somehow. Anyway, O'Shea meets Britain and he just remembered everything that they had when they were younger. He asked why she left. She couldn't tell him, but they just sort of continued the relationship, right? This relationship they continued like is a relationship that was getting Jordan angry and pissed. Like honestly, that character Jordan was just overreacting, like because she was trying to be possessive of O'Shea, and it was sort of like confusing because it wasn't even a real thing between them, right? It was just for public, just for image and all that stuff. But anyway, O'Shea gets into a relationship with Britain again. Somehow, along the line, he found out about the child that Britain had 8 years before. He was pissed. He went to tell Kenji about it, and Kenji then told him that he too knew about it. It was like he was just so angry that everybody around him knew what happened, but nobody told him what had happened. And it was Kenji who had just talked sense to him and said, if Britain didn't do that at that time, right, it was going to affect her. They were going to be hurt, so he just forgive her. Anyway, he just tried to move past that. They continued with their relationship. Then Janae, who had continued the relationship with that guy who had raped her then, was told by that guy, who somehow turned out to be Yaga, surprisingly. So Yaga had told her that he was pissed that Kenji had taken his position in the hood, and he believed that Kenji had stolen his money at some point in time. So he needed Janae to go to Kenji to get his money back, right? But Kenji kind of like sensed, or word got out that Yaga was trying to get his money back from him. So he knew that Janae was sent, right, to discover his stash house so that the money would be taken. And because he knew that, he set Janae up like, let me just stop the review here. Like, there's a lot. The book was it was a lot. But it was very, very interesting. I really liked it. And the end, I don't know, hood romances, why do you guys always end it with a tragedy? Anyway, I enjoyed it. It was a lot. It was entertaining. The only issue I had with this book was the teenage gripping and all that stuff. Like, when I read all those parts, and then the teenage abuse, the pregnancy, beating up a pregnant teenager, it sort of like disturbed me. I'm not comfortable reading such story or hearing such story. There's a way it just affects me. Like, I'm one of those kind of people that believes that you do not do something evil to a child or a teenager. No, it's not allowed. But because honestly, it took me about 3 months to finish reading the book, and it's not like the book it's not a big book. It's a very, very short, straightforward story. But it was those parts when I was reading it and I got to those parts, I just had to stop. I just had to mourn that part of the story. Let me say it like that. I had to mourn that part of the story. I just could not continue. It was impossible for me. I just could not continue reading after finding out such sad occurrence. But after I had mourned it for 3 months, I went back to it and then I was able to move past it and read the story. So the story is actually nice. It's very interesting. I recommend that you get it and you read it. I'll end the review here. See you in the next one. Bye.